Psalm 34 verse 18. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. Pain is a universal experience. At some point in life, we all face wounds that seem impossible to heal. And in those moments, the psalm reminds us that we are not alone. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted. God is not indifferent to human suffering. He does not watch from afar like a passive spectator. On the contrary, He draws near with tenderness, with compassion, and with the promise of salvation for those who feel defeated. The broken heart is a symbol of those who have lost something precious, a loved one, a dream, a relationship, confidence in themselves. In those cracks of the soul, God chooses to dwell to bring comfort. When the spirit feels crushed, when sadness seems to consume every strength, that is where God manifests Himself most intensely. His presence does not magically remove the pain, but it transforms it. Jesus Himself lived the experience of being broken. He wept in Gethsemane, He grieved over the unbelief of His people, and on the cross He carried all human suffering. He knows what it means to have a broken heart. The psalm does not promise that there will be no pain. What it promises is that, in the midst of that pain, God will be near. That nearness is the true medicine that heals the deepest wounds. Being close to God in brokenness means allowing His grace to enter our cracks. Not hiding the pain, but presenting it as it is to the Lord, trusting that His love can restore. Many times we seek quick fixes for suffering, distractions, escapes, passing illusions. But none of these fill the void. Only the presence of God can embrace the broken heart and give it new life. The sacraments are the place where God draws near to the crushed. In confession, He forgives and heals the guilt that weighs. In the Eucharist, He feeds the weary soul and restores hope. Mary, the Mother of God, is also the mother of the brokenhearted. She stood at the foot of the cross, watching her son's suffering. No one understands a pierced heart better than she does. The Lord draws near not only spiritually, but also through people who accompany us in our pain. A sincere hug, a word of encouragement, a faithful presence are reflections of His love. The crushed spirit feels it cannot go on. But the psalm reminds us that we are not called to fight alone. God's salvation lifts the fallen and gives them back the ability to dream again. When we think we have reached the end, God shows us that there are still paths to walk. Defeat is not the last word, because the Lord reveals Himself in weakness. St. Paul said that when we are weak, then we are strong, because God's grace is perfected in our fragility. Psalm 34 verse 18 expresses that same eternal truth. The Lord does not seek perfect hearts, He seeks sincere ones. And a broken heart, open in its pain, is capable of receiving more fully the love that transforms everything. God does not despise our tears. Each one is gathered as a precious offering. Every wound can become a place where His grace blooms. The saints also knew brokenness. Saint Francis of Assisi wept for the suffering of the world. Saint Teresa of Calcutta endured dark nights of faith. Yet they became lights reflecting God's closeness. Pain is not a sign of God's abandonment. On the contrary, many times it is in that pain that we most intensely discover His company. Like a father holding his wounded child, so is God with us. The crushed heart needs hope. The psalm gives us that hope. The Lord not only draws near, but He saves. His salvation is lifting us from the dust and showing us that life still has meaning. God transforms wounds into testimony. What hurts today can tomorrow become strength to accompany others. What is now brokenness can become a seed of comfort for someone else. The world may despise the weak, but God bends down to them. Where others see failure, the Lord sees a soul ready to receive the fullness of His grace. In the Church, we find communal comfort. We are not alone in suffering. We are one body, and when one member suffers, the others support it. That is God's closeness made community. The Lord also draws near in silent prayer. In the darkest moment, a whisper to God is enough for light to begin to pierce the night of the soul. Broken hearts can become the brightest ones, because in their cracks enters divine light, and that light shines outward to others. A crushed spirit that trusts in God is a testimony of faith. Even in pain, it shows that hope does not die, because it rests on an eternal promise. Jesus said, "Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted." Psalm 34 verse 18 confirms that beatitude. God's comfort is certain. The Lord does not measure the greatness of our faith by the absence of tears, but by the trust we keep in the midst of them. Suffering does not have the last word. The cross was pain, but it was also the doorway to resurrection. So too our brokenness can be the path to new life. The broken heart can become an altar. There, in the midst of wounds, we can offer our fragility as a living sacrifice pleasing to God. The Lord is near, not in a distant future, not after the pain passes. He is near now, in this very moment, accompanying each wound with His infinite tenderness. The salvation He offers is not an empty promise. It is a reality that begins in the present and is fulfilled in eternity, where there will be no more tears or brokenness. Those who trust in God discover that even the longest nights end with a sunrise. And in that sunrise, the Lord's presence shines stronger than ever. The crushed spirit must not give up. The psalm invites us to lift our eyes and recognize that there is a God who never abandons, who is always by our side. The Lord saves us not only from pain, but from the emptiness that pain creates. He gives us new purpose, a new path, a new reason to go on. God's closeness is an invisible embrace, yet real. It is peace in the storm, calm in the chaos, hope in despair. Broken hearts are especially loved by God. In them shines the truth of His mercy and the greatness of His compassion. Being crushed is not a sign of spiritual failure. It is an opportunity for grace to show its power, proving that God is the one who sustains our lives. Every wound we give to God can become a scar of victory, a mark that remembers the pain, but also His faithfulness that never left us. The Lord draws near not only to comfort, but also to strengthen. He does not just wipe tears, but gives new strength to keep going. This psalm is a beacon of hope. It assures us that God does not forget those who suffer, but instead comes close and commits to saving them. Today, if your heart is broken, do not fear. The Lord is by your side. He knows your pain and walks with you every step of the way. Let His presence surround you. Allow the closeness of His love to be balm for your wounds. His tenderness can raise up the lowest soul. Psalm 34 verse 18 is more than comfort. It is an eternal promise. No matter what happens, God is with you in your tears and saves you in your brokenness. You do not walk alone. The Lord is your faithful companion. Even in the darkest night, His light shines and guides you to a new dawn. Today we give thanks for this message of hope. For though life may break us, God is always near to restore us. And as we close this reflection, I invite you to share it. Subscribe to keep hearing God's word, and remember that someone else needs this same hope. For the Lord fulfills what He promises, and His word reminds us today, the Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit.